What's up, guys? It's that day. New bike day. This is a 2018 Hightower LT, size large, and I made some customizations, so I wanted to show you what I did. I love this color. This the 2018 LT comes in a couple of colors. Gray, as you can see here, which I got with the white lettering. Hope this shows up really well. I'm in pretty good lighting. I'm in the garage, but I got the door open. Nice glossy finish, really beautiful. The other color is a little bit more outrageous. It's kind of like a neon greenish yellow color, which is cool. It's sort of like my my air compressor tube in the back, something like that. But it just wasn't as refined, I thought. And you know, maybe some of you guys are into the more flashy frame colors, but this was just really subtle. It was gray. It had the white lettering. You can see Hightower LT on the chainstay in the back, and I like it. I think it's beautiful. Hopefully that the trim tape that I put over it is going to help keep it nice and protected for a long time. One thing I considered when I was looking at this frame versus the standard Hightower with a little bit less suspension was the fact that you could run both 29er and 27.5 wheels. And I think that the concept of having the ability to run both sets is cool. I don't know how many people actually do it. Certainly, I like 29er wheels. I'm kind of a clumsy rider. And I feel like 2.4-inch width with these minions is, you know, while it's not 2.8, it's definitely wide, and I feel like I get a huge amount of traction. One thing to consider, though, is the Hightower LT does not allow you to use both wheel sizes like the standard Hightower does, and I think it's because of the lack of clearance. Maybe not on the fork. I know that the fork is, I think, is capable of running both, but you can see on the seat stays here, there's not a whole lot of gap. The frame actually has this really cool contour here, so that you're getting a fair amount of clearance, but you couldn't go much wider, I don't think, than a 2.5-inch or 2.4-inch tire. So, you know, if you like the ability, or you think that you might want to have two sets of wheels, the LT is not the version that will work for you. If you think you want to have both a high and low position to raise up that bottom bracket height, this frame does not allow you to do that. So I would say go and ride the standard Hightower and ride the LT, and you know, really think about whether or not the lack of adjustability or flexibility on the LT is something that you'd want to consider. This is the Carbon C frame, but the build kit that came on the higher end C build was not exactly what I was looking for, so I made some changes. Most notably, I put on the SRAM GX Eagle group set instead of the XT options that were on the XE build of the Carbon C model. And I did that for a couple of reasons. I really like the 12-speed transmission. I'm getting close to 40, and although I'm pretty fit, it's nice to have that big 50-tooth chainring in the back, or a cog in the back. And I gotta say that, surprisingly, it's I've ridden X01 Eagle quite a bit, and this is every bit as smooth and quiet as the more expensive X01 drivetrain, and it's a little bit heavier. And for me, you know, it's easier for me to eat a few less pieces of pizza, or drink a few fewer brews, and save that weight. So we got the GX cranks here. I think the standard is a 32 tooth chainring in the front. GX chain. We got the Eagle derailleur in the back, GX as well. And of course the big old cassette. But I did make one change up front. I kind of like the feel of the X01 shifter a little bit better than the GX Eagle shifter, and you know, it's not that much more expensive. So for this part, on something that you're going to be touching constantly, where there's a marginal cost increase for a nicer feel, I went ahead and spent the money to get that. I went with the Santa Cruz carbon bars, and it might be a little bit hard to see in the light here, but it's got this really slick, let's see if we can focus. Try again. This really slick, sort of subtle, ghosted Santa Cruz lettering on the bars. Really nice. 800 millimeter is wider than what I'm used to. I've tried it on a couple of rides so far, and I like it. It's definitely going to take some getting used to, but very cool in terms of the damping of, you know, slight trail chatter. I don't ride a whole lot of really aggressive stuff, so every little bump and rock and everything that I ride over on my previous bike through alloy bars was sort of noticeable, and I would say that this is a hell of a lot more comfortable. I like it quite a bit. I'm not sure that I want to go ahead and keep that overall width 800 millimeters. It's really wide. I think eventually I might consider cutting it down just because it is so wide, but it's definitely comfortable. I love how it feels. I opted for the XT brakes for a couple of reasons. I've ridden SRAM brakes and Shimano brakes for a number of years, and you know, they're both great. I most recently was riding Guide Ultimate RSC brakes, and so when I was looking at the build kit options for this Hightower, and I was thinking maybe I wanted to go that direction. But after playing around with the XT brakes, you know, this most recent version, these are the M8000s, I decided I'd give it a try. One thing that really sold me was the ability to do bleeding with mineral oil as opposed to dot fluid. You know, I don't want to have to mess around with chemicals that may or may not cause problems for me. I've got some kids that play in the garage as well, and I just didn't want to have any additional chemicals around that didn't need to be around. Certainly mineral oil isn't safe to drink, but I think it's a lot safer in my mind than some dot fluid. So I got the XTs on there, and they're paired up with the Ice Tech 180 rotors in the front and the back. And for the kind of riding I do, that's plenty of stopping power. I could very easily go ahead and upgrade to 200 in the front if I wanted to, but for now I think it works great. I ran the Crank Brothers Mallet E. These are the Enduro pedals platform. They're sort of mid-size. They're not like the downhill pedals. They work great for me. I like having a larger platform. I'm not a flat pedal guy, but I do appreciate the amount of additional stability that this wider platform offers. You can see that there's a ton of adjustability. This is on the top side. In the front, there's 4 of these screws that you can adjust to whatever height. So if you wanted to give yourself a little bit more grip on your shoe, there's also 2 in the back. And of course, it's the same on the flip side. These are great. I got the, not the highest end version. I like the gold. I like the cool titanium options on the higher end, but geez, I just can't see spending $300 or more for a set of pedals. These have been great. I've ridden them for almost a full season on my other bike. They've got this chamfer on the edge, which is really nice. You can still see that there's some damage here caused by pedal strikes or you know, rock strikes or whatever, but it's so much more able to bounce off a lot of the other rocks that you might run into, because it has this profile that's not on the same plane as the rest of the side of the pedal. So the previous versions of these pedals I don't think have the same kind of chamfer. They seem to get beat up quite a bit visually. Obviously they work great mechanically, but they would get quite a few more scratches sooner, and I feel like these are a little bit more resilient to scratching. I like the look with the rest of the group set. Nice black, nothing flashy. Out back I got the Fox Float DPX2 Performance Shock. It's the Evol, and I like it a lot. I haven't ridden this very much before. I've primarily ridden RockShox gear in the past, and this is nice. It's definitely comfortable. I haven't played around with the settings too much. You know, I'm gonna see how that goes in the next couple weeks, playing around with it. But for climbing, you know, I found, again, I'm not the most fit climber, but I found that the firm setting, right, so all the way back for climbing really was comfortable. It still bobs a little bit. This is my first time on a Santa Cruz, getting used to the VPP. I'm coming from a hardtail, so everything's quite a bit different than what I'm used to. But I would say that the firm setting is it's forgiving enough where, you know, in the little bumps where on a hardtail, if you were riding over some rocks or some chattery stuff, it wouldn't be real comfortable. Even on the firmest setting, I really think that this is comfortable and I still get a good amount of traction. I think that this is going to be something as I get used to the VPP. I think that I'll get even better with it. I might feel a little bit more apt to go to the sort of middle position, which is a pretty good compromise between traction and a little bit more firm pedaling platform. But either way, I like it a lot. I have played around, obviously, with the fun setting. Descending is awesome on this bike. It is so comfortable, you know, paired up with the fork that I'll talk about in a few minutes. This is really a cool suspension setup. From what I read, it's really easy to maintain. I am hopeful that, you know, I'll get plenty of hours in on this before there's really any kind of maintenance that I need to perform. Let me walk around this other side real quick. I haven't played around too much with the rebound, but you can see that it's really easy to access the rebound setting right here, and you can actually change that with your with a twist. There's no tool required, so I like that a lot. Yeah, I decided to go with the XE build primarily because it had the Fox suspension, and I really like this Fox 36 Performance Elite. Haven't played around with the settings too much after getting it set up initially from my local bike shop, but it's got the Fit 4 damper. You can see on the right side here. It's pretty easy to set, so we've got our rebound adjust here, high speed, and it just looks really slick. You know, the Kashima coat is nice. I've ridden it before, but I got to tell you that these black stanchions are every bit as smooth as the Kashima. I actually like how it looks overall with the bike. It looks, you know, I wouldn't say stealth like some other bikes that I've seen, but it definitely has a nice sort of subtle appearance. So I'm running a Race Face 50 mil Affect stem here, nice and short, and Cane Creek headset with a couple of spacers to kind of bring it up. Nice look. Can't complain. It brings those bars, which are 800 mil wide, back, and it's a pretty comfortable position. It's not as upright as some XC bikes that I've had before. But it's not like riding a road bike, that's for sure. Definitely comfortable, nice and short, pretty good control, very cool. One of my favorite things about this bike is the setup right from the factory with the Minion DHR. These are 2.4 inch wide. I love them. Set up tubeless, paired up with the E13 TRS wheels. These are aluminum wheels. This is just a nice combination. It's not super expensive. I like how it feels. I don't feel that they're terribly flexy. I know that some guys on this particular build like to go up to the Santa Cruz Reserve carbon wheels, and I guess it's something I might consider in the future, but these are great. Great option. They're inexpensive, I think, and they're every bit as light as most of the aluminum, you know, wider aluminum rims that I've seen out there. This is a Reverb 150 mil dropper. I haven't used the reverb before. I've always had mechanical dropper posts, and it's a nice feel. I gotta say, it's a really smooth feel. I was worried when I had read some of the initial review, or the original reviews of the Rev A, or the first dropper, primarily because of longevity and performance degradation over time, but also the actuation. I really disliked the push button for the the Rev A versions of this one. This is a nice lever that feels very comfortable to anybody that's ridden 2x before. It's super nice. I mean, it's completely different. This is very much like the Fox Transfer that I've ridden. I've noticed that the feel is soft. It's a little bit squishy. You can kind of feel the fluid moving through the tube when you do that. But I wouldn't say it's sloppy. It's comfortable. Looks nice. I might end up putting a little bit of grip tape on the paddle there, just so it's a little bit more sticky, but nice ergonomics. You got the capability with the clamp to move it around. And just so you see, this is, I don't have it set up with the single clamp. I don't think it looks too terribly busy, complicated. I think it's okay to see both the XT clamp and then also the reverb clamp here. So one additional thing I did when I got the bike was I figured that I wanted to keep it looking as nice as I could for as long as I could. And one of the things that I read about was the use of 3M or Invisiframe or some other similar sort of clear, I think it's 1 or 2 mil material that is clear, that's pretty easy to apply in all the places on the bike that you would think you might get rocks coming up, rock strikes. So I'm going to zoom in here. You can kind of see that I have put a strip of this material right up under the head tube, and it's 2 inches wide. It starts here and it goes all the way down this black section to right above the factory installed guard on the bottom. You can't really see a whole lot, which is the point here. If you get closer, you can kind of see I did a pretty good job, but there are some tiny bubbles. And for some reason on the edge of this, it's not like the most invisible line, particularly like up in this location. But overall, like if I zoom out, you can hardly tell that there's anything on this. And I would gladly give up a little bit of the visible or visual appeal of this bike without anything covering it, to have just another layer of protection in case you're to get a rock strike, which is inevitable. I put them in a couple places. The top tube was one. I know I've read a lot of guys with knee pads have some damage here on the sides. I would say that this was the first piece I put on. It's not as good as what I did later. It's a little bit more visible. I've read that some of the bubbles eventually over time will get out of there. You put, on their own by the way, you spray onto the frame some water and soap mix, and then putting this material on is fairly easy. It sort of slips around, so it's nice to be able to reposition it. It's not like you stick it on and then it's there forever. But there are a couple of bubbles. I might take this part off. Here's some bubbles here. I might take this one off and give it another go. But again, my sorry for the focus here. It's not grabbing the top tube. All right, so from far away, I mean, the camera's about 1 foot away from this top tube. You can hardly see it. Again, I think it's worth having a little bit more protection, and if you're giving up just a tad of the sleekness, the shininess of the brand new frame, I think it makes a lot of sense to have a little bit more protection. One of the other places that I put this on from the get-go was anywhere that I was going to have a cable housing bumping up against the frame or rubbing over time. I've had problems with this in my previous bikes. I think this is probably one of the better patches of this material that I put on. You can kind of see there's a little bit of distortion. It's obviously a square patch. I've rounded over all the corners, just so it's not as easy to grab one of those corners with, you know, an errant. I don't know if I'm wiping it down or I'm using a brush to clean it. I'm not gonna grab one of those corners and pick up the patch as easily as I can if they were straight corners. But again, this tube is going to bump in this place and it's going to rub, and over time it's going to cause a little bit of marring on the frame, and I just wanted to protect that. The last place that I put it is down here near the bottom bracket. This is great. You can hardly see this. This just gives a little bit of extra protection where I know I'm going to get rock strikes. There's the factory installed sort of rubber stopper, but there's also the opportunity to put in another patch here and really just protect from some rock strikes on the bottom. I haven't put anything on the side of the down tube. I think I might eventually do that. I want to make sure that I'm getting as much coverage as I can without giving up a whole lot in terms of the nice look of the shiny new frame. One other place I think it might make a lot of sense to cover would be some of the seat stays locations and some of the chain stays. I'm a little bit surprised that on the drive side you can kind of see, sorry about the exposure, you can kind of see that the factory installed rubber bumper here is only on the right hand side of the drive side. And I'm not exactly sure why that would be. It's a fairly cheap piece of material. It's replaceable. I know we're going to get rock strikes, we're going to get chain slap and all the rest of that there. Why would you not do that on the other side where you're obviously not going to have chain slap, but you're going to get an equal number of rocks coming up and hitting it. So that's one of the next places that I think I'm going to put that clear plastic material. So that's it, guys. Hightower LT quick review. I love it. It's my first Santa Cruz. I'm definitely enjoying it so far. I've been on a couple rides. Strava told me I'm a little bit faster than my previous routes, and I believe it. I still need to get used to the feel of the VPP, but it's a great bike. I'd recommend you go out and give it a try. Thanks.